Welcome back to AP US History. We're talking about information in Chapter 29. By the way, the secret words for this video is domino theory. That is, if one country went to communist, fell to communist, so would the rest of the neighborhood, the neighboring countries. Johnson is going to be convince himself and the American people that we should not let the communists take over South Vietnam, and he's going to be fully committed to this cause. Viet Cong assassinate 2,000 government officials during 1960. The Civil War results. Kennedy had chosen between abandoning South Vietnam or deeping it. We're not really sure which way he would have gone on this. Some suggest that he was seriously considering pulling out advisors. Initially, it starts at about 652 advisors and works its way up to 16,000. His goal was to strengthen the Vietnamese army by giving them training. But he wasn't interested in having the United States having a direct involvement in the war. This shows the flag of the National Front of Liberation, South Vietnamese. This was the Viet Cong symbol. The Cong, farmers by day, guerrillas by night. Very patient people, willing to accept many casualties. The U.S. grossly underestimated their resolve and their resourcefulness. The guerrillas wins if he does not lose. Conventional armies lose if it does not win. This is Mao Zedong. So all they had to do was outlast Americans, and they did. And Americans get very frustrated with the war. This shows some pictures of who is the real enemy. This shows a suspected Viet Cong being shot by the chief police of this particular village or town. Viet Cong terrorists bombing frequent in Saigon. This was the capital of the South. Johnson's war. He pledges that Southeast Asia will not go the way of China. Robert McNamara, the Secretary of Defense, is going to be the chief architect of the U.S. escalation of U.S. involvement. Johnson rejects any settlement of Vietnam, not guaranteeing a non-communist government in the South. The Gulf of Tonkin resolution really is the stepping off point for the Vietnam War. North Vietnamese torpedo boats will attack U.S. destroyers off the coast of North Vietnam, and certainly we provoked this attack. And this is according to historians. As a result of the gunboats attacking American destroyers, Johnson will go to Congress and ask for a resolution giving him sweeping powers, and they will agree that he can do whatever he needs to do to protect American interest in Southeast Asia. Again, torpedo boats attacking American destroyers. Attacks were unprovoked, he said, but Congress will pass this resolution giving him approval. Escalation of the war. Vietnam becomes a quagmire, which means that it just doesn't seem to ever end. We just get bogged down. We bomb more troops, and bombing of North Vietnam did not end the war. If America withdrew, the domino theory would again occur. There was something called the Tet Offensive that convinced most Americans, this is in 1968, that we were not winning the war. This shows troop deployment from 1961 through 1968. At the height of we had well over 500,000 troops there. General Westmoreland was in control of the ground war, said that we were winning. He could see light at the end of the tunnel. Unfortunately, it was a train coming the other direction. The Tet Offensive, hundreds of attacks throughout South Vietnam were orchestrated by the Viet Cong. The United States will fight off every one of the attacks, but they will lose the war. So hundreds of cities are bombed, U.S. embassy taken over. U.S. and ARVN, or the South Vietnamese troops, beat back the offensive. Viet Cong are destroyed. North Vietnamese army is debilitated because of their attacks, but Americans are seen as defeated by the media. And public opinion will turn against the war. Americans are tired of losing American boys and servicemen there and women. Protests are going to be orchestrated against Johnson. Hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? And of course, the president is distraught over the fact that people don't love him and are not supporting him in his war against the commies. Johnson's popularity dropped significantly, enough to convince him that he was not going to run for office, which he was eligible to do, another 4 years. The anti-war movement, many religious and civil rights groups opposed it. Martin Luther King opposed it, believed there were too many black men being killed over there. Rich white folks were avoiding the draft. Some draft dodgers went to Canada to avoid it. Americans became so weary of seeing the carnage and the death toll that they just wanted the war to come to an end. The press turned on Johnson and accused him of lying about the war. People burnt their draft cards throughout America. There were anti-war demonstrations protesting war on many campuses. Some of the pins that were worn by anti-war activists during the Vietnam War. Hell no, we won't go. This was a slogan announced by many young men. There were demonstrations outside the Democratic Convention in Chicago in 1968, but this time Johnson has said he's not going to run. Students occupy buildings in Berkeley in 1968. Jane Fonda, seen as a traitor by many, goes to Hanoi to investigate a publicity stunt. She's against the war. Many veterans have still not forgiven her for her actions. Anti-war demonstrations, something that you might need to know. Kent State University, 4 students were shot by the National Guard, mainly because they were throwing bricks and bottles at the National Guard soldiers. 11 more were wounded. Jackson State University, 2 people killed, 12 wounded, again because they were harassing the National Guard. This shows the peace movement symbol. So public opinion is turning against the war and forced Johnson out in the 1968 election. Nixon will be elected in 1968, and he comes up with what he calls Vietnamization. That is, that he wants to get the troops out of Vietnam and let the South take over for themselves. Henry Kissinger will begin negotiations with North Vietnam in Paris. The Pentagon Papers are released that show that really the government has been lying to the public about the Vietnam War. This is an announcement. Johnson announces he will not run again, seek another term for the president. Nixon's campaign, Peace with Honor, he appeals to the silent majority that they want to get out of the war, but they don't want to leave it just hanging. This Vietnamese idea is expanded, although there is a secret war going on in Cambodia, Laos, where we are bombing and attacking the North Vietnamese there, expanding the war. Agent Orange was used to kill the plants, so it's easier to see the commies. The Pentagon Papers turned a lot of Americans against the war because the 7,000-page top-secret government report basically was trying to minimize losses and really suggested the government wasn't really trying to win the war. Um, Daniel Ellsberg was a former defense analyst who leaked these papers to the New York Times. And it just simply said Congress and American people regarding the intervention in Vietnam during the middle 60s were being led astray. A Supreme Court eventually says that these papers can be released, and kind of a black eye for the government. Paris Accords, 1973. By 1973, South Vietnam, the Paris Accords just simply said that we were going to get out, peace with honor. But the war rages on, and by 1975, the South has fallen into the hands of the North. So in 73, we signed a ceasefire, and we have no intentions of going back. And this, again, fulfills this peace with honor. This shows Henry Kissinger talking with a North Korean diplomat. The peace accords ending the war, fall of Saigon by 1975. This is a North Vietnamese tank rolling into the presidential palace in Saigon. Now we have a unified Vietnam, which has turned to capitalist. There's still a totalitarian government there, but the Nike shoes makes a number of shoes in Vietnam, as well as other American corporations and European corporations. Cost of the war, 3 million Vietnamese will be killed, 55,000 Americans killed, 300,000 wounded. Certainly it underfunded the Great Society programs. In terms of cost, we're talking trillions of dollars. U.S. morale, self-confidence, trust in the government, certainly shaken by this war. 28th Amendment, 18-year-olds can vote. Nixon will abolish the draft, and it will become an all-voluntary army. The War Powers Act is passed in 73 that says the president must notify the Congress within 48 hours if he's going to deploy military. This is taking back that Gulf of Tonkin resolution that essentially gave the president a blank check to conduct the war. Presidents must withdraw forces unless he gains congressional approval within 90 days. Disregard for veterans seen as baby killers. Certainly the POWs and MI missing in action issue lingered. John McCain, from Arizona, senator, is going to run for president, was a prisoner during the war. Still about 2,500 Americans missing in action, unaccounted for today. Ho Chi Minh, we have to fight. We will fight. We will kill 10 of you. Will kill 10 of our men, and we will kill one of yours. In the end, you will grow tired of it, and we did. One thing, lessons learned in this war, they need to be short, keep American casualties down, restrict media access on the battlefield, have a winnable goals, and have a deadline to get the troops out. This shows a picture of the Vietnam Memorial to veterans of 58,000 that died in Vietnam.